topic today is going to be Azure DevOps plus Microsoft Teams. And the whole essence of this topic is for us to see how we can use Microsoft Teams to collaborate more with Azure DevOps. Now, the reason why I see this topic as a very interesting topic is because a lot of us are developers. So I'm right. I mean, how many of us use DevOps? I mean, how many of us are DevOps engineers in the house, or even use Azure DevOps for your projects and all of that? The raise of hand. Cool. So I think I have a bit of audience, even if it is one or two. And maybe at the end of this topic, I would have converted some. And you know, when we're in school in those days, we used to say something. I hope I will be able to convince you that you should start using Azure DevOps. All right, so it is talking about collaborative development and operations, really. And then how we can do what? Empower your DevOps teams to get the most out of Microsoft Teams. Now, the reason why I'm saying that is because a lot of us today, the typical DevOps team that we have, or software engineering team that we have in the organization today, will be using things for collaboration, some like what? Like Slack, right? That's what a lot of us will be using. So that is okay. But the drawback with that is that you create a situation for your users or for your team to be able to go in and out of several applications. That's what I'm trying to use this topic to help you how you can, at the end of the day, keep it simple for your users, and at the end of the day also enhance the collaboration that is taking place amongst your team, and then helping them also to be more productive. So before the agenda, my name is Olajumoke Toriola. City of Azure Limited, and also I'm an MVP in the Microsoft M365 apps and services. So if you talk about Teams, that is me. If you talk about my M365, that is me. But if it is, so let me give you a disclaimer ahead of time. I am no developer. So nobody should come and tell me, oh, or someone should call me, please, I have a problem with my DevOps or my push or my pull request is not going through and all of that. So yeah. So I'm giving you a disclaimer ahead of time. So, but what I like to do is to use what I know to simplify work for everyone at the end of the day, and also do what? Ensure that everybody can collaborate at the end of the day in a very, very easy fashion. So, going back to who am I? I'm an MCT, Microsoft Certified Trainer. I'm also the co-founder of Techstylers. So for the women in the house, I'm actually very, very passionate about this. I'll take my time to talk about what Techstyler is all about. Techstyler is a community of women in technology. Our focus really is to see how we bring more women into technology, and we do all of this by what? By mentoring and then also imparting tech skills to them. Now I have a couple of some of my Techstylers women in the house. And so for you women, I mean some of you that are in the house that are not part of this community, please join. And then if you have sisters also, tell them to join. The truth is that we don't collect any money. However, any man that is ready to wear skirts can also join us. So, on Twitter, the Techstylers, yes, thank you. So that's my LinkedIn, my social media, my Twitter, and if you have to learn a little bit about my YouTube, please, anything, you can actually go there. Now, to the agenda of the day, we'll be talking about a bit of introduction to Azure DevOps, and then getting started with teams and channels. And then we'll look at how we also can integrate Microsoft Teams with Azure DevOps services, talk about the DevOps board, the dashboard, the Scrum, your pull requests, pipelines, your builds, deployment, and all of that, and all of the custom process or customization you can do. And then, most importantly, how do you engage your team at the end of the day to make them happier, reward them to become more productive, and then have them build a more collaborative team. Now, before I start, I'd normally like to give appreciation to this wonderful man. Um, he's the principal engineering manager at Microsoft, and sincerely, a lot of the slides that I'm going to be using is part of his work. And then he gave me a very open ticket to use a lot of his resources. So I'll try as much as possible to do justice to some of it, really. So, what is DevOps? It's actually a practice, and then it is focused really on what agility. Before now, we know a lot of us have heard about waterfall and all of that, but the agile process has come to stay. So, what is DevOps trying to do is about collaboration, automation within IT development teams and the operations. That's the word DevOps at the end of the day. Developers, operation, bringing them together where they will be able to work. So, if you look at me having to use, can I get a pointer? Um, all right, I'll try as much as possible to make this. So for if you look at the planning aspect, I mean the build aspect of it, you can see where Git or and all of the rest works. And then when you look at the plan aspect, where you have a lot of the projects, tools, the applications that will be working there.
You can point straight on the screen.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right. Thank you. So, right. So, yeah, if you look at the develop, you see that you have a lot of development tools like Kubernetes, operations, where you have your Jira. These are things that a lot of project managers, so that's what DevOps is actually going to do. Developers, your project managers, your product managers, and all of that. How you marry all of these people together, and at the end of the day, you have a collaborative workspace for them. So, well then, our focus today is going to be on Azure DevOps. So what does Azure DevOps do? Azure DevOps support the collaborative culture. It's a cultural thing, really. A lot of what we're trying to do here is how you have a cultural transformation within what your organization. So, and then it does what? A set of process that can bring together. I've already mentioned that developers, the project managers, and a lot of contributions to your what you develop, just the software development. What benefits are you going to be getting from this? You have a what? You can create and improve products at a faster space, and then with than what you do with the traditional software development approaches that we have. Another cool thing is that Azure DevOps support was the cloud and on-premise services. You have increased efficiency, you have improved collaboration, and then you can do what? Early detection and correction of issues on time, because you have a workspace that is enable a lot of people to come together and all of that. So next please. All right, so let's start about, because I'm talking about Azure DevOps and Microsoft Teams. I want to also assume, which I normally do, that some of us have not even heard about Microsoft Teams before. And even if you have heard about it, maybe you don't even know what really Microsoft Teams is. Or, I mean, you don't have a good grasp of what's the capability of Microsoft Teams. So starting with, Microsoft Teams is the central hub of Teams collaboration in Microsoft 365. And what it does is that it's a workplace that brings the people, the contents, the charts, the meetings, your calls, the tools, and even your applications together for you to be able to work. So there are four core areas that Microsoft Teams actually focus on. One is communicate, collaborate, customize, and work with what? With confidence, which is what we're trying to do. Okay, now, yes. All right. So, how do you think about Microsoft Teams? So let's pause a little bit. Let us start with the outer look. If you were today to work with someone, customers or you have external people that you're working with, or probably maybe we finish this recording, you want to share with people that are not within our organization, or you want to collaborate with people that are not within your organization. Those are who we refer to as what the outer loop. What you will be using mostly with the things like what's your SharePoint, maybe your Yammer or your Stream, Microsoft Stream. But when it comes to probably maybe you want to look at a communication that is more focused or directed, you'll be looking at Outlook, because you for external communications. Now, this is where Teams comes in. When you're looking at having a collaboration or communication for your inner loop here means the next slide, where you will be able to do things like from the code, from the plan to the coding, to the building, to the test, release, and all of that, where you go through all of this phase. This is where Microsoft Teams comes in from. So you want to be able to use a tool that they will be able to have a conversation at the end of the day that will take them through all of these phases. Okay, now I just want to leave a bit of the background before we go deep dive into it. Now, Teams and channels are what you make use of in Microsoft Teams. And many of us today knows Teams in Microsoft Teams. Like I said, at the end of this course, I think I'll be able to convince you to start using Microsoft and not confuse you. So now you have Teams where what Teams does is when you bring a group of people together to work on a common goal or probably maybe a common project. Now, within Teams, you can actually build what is referred to channels. Now, channels is where you have more focused conversation depending on each of the tasks you want to do. So you have channel has workplace within what Teams, and then you have them in two. You have the standard and then you have the private channel. Now, what the standard channel actually does is that it allows you to create membership from the parent team. Why for a private channel, you can actually create just team memberships that are only focused on a conversation. You do not want people. So sometimes you use private channel for something like a leadership discussion and all of that. So now I want you to think about channels as topic. How many of us use rules in our Outlook today? Yes. So think about channels like or inbox rules that you create. Instead of you having to sort, you don't want emails to come in to your inbox and everything is inside your inbox. I want emails that comes from Tabitha as an example to have a folder and then it goes to Tabitha alone. So I want a mail that is just for Deji, just to be for Deji, goes to Deji's folder. That is what you should look at channels. So you use channels to create a workspace for a specific conversation you want it to have, and then you can sort it out afterwards. All right. Now, how do you stay on top of your stuff? Because if you tell me now, what the first thing people will be saying is that you asked me to start using Teams collaboration instead of Slack for my DevOps. How do I stay on top of our stuff? Now, you can create notification in each of the channels. You can create notifications such that anything that is posted to those channels, you can get notification for. You can also do what? You can do a search. And another thing you can do is that you can save the message later for you to be able to pay. So I have talked a lot, and I want to let us just take a look now. This is what a typical channel would do if you're doing a channel in Teams. A typical team will look. Now you have customizable tabs that you can use, and then you have posts. Excuse me. So you have posts, and then you have tabs that you can use within Microsoft Teams. Now, the post is where you are by default when you create a Teams, The two things, what you have by default is that you have post and pass. Now you can add additional. So if there is anything your team wants to collaborate with, you can actually add them as a what? As a website. Maybe there are custom URL that you want to do and you want your team to collaborate with. So let's look at this example. This is a product engineering team, and then this is a team that you have created for them. Now, ideally, for a project engineering, you will start with what? Your research. You will start with architecture. You will start with planning. You will start with what? Your bug trial, and then your pull request, your ship review and release, and then all of that. Now, in each of this, you will find out that this is where you have people playing, and then you can look at the applications that fit them. Now, when you come to research, a lot of the things that will be happening in this place will be things like information gathering, or maybe you want to do design concept and all of that. Now, what are the kind of applications? Teams is made up of a lot of applications that can help you to do what? To aid all of this development and conversation within your team. So research will be using things like what? OneNote, maybe like Word, OneNote to do what? Your BRD. I hope I'm not using too much of jargons because I want to believe that a lot of us, yes, we know what BRD is. And then maybe your meeting request and all of that. So your business requirement documents. I'm sorry. So how you say
don't have
your business
idea.
requirement.
You don't have idea. Break it down.
So your BRD and all of that, I'm so sorry. I apologize. So your BRD, your business requirement document. So this is where you have the information of all what the customer is going to, the customer is looking at, or what you're trying to build or develop. And then you have like your case scenario, everything that is drafted there. You have your design and what is going to do, what's your design concept, and all of the meetings. So in the research here, you will do a lot of meetings. What are the applications that are going to be applicable for you? You will use things like what OneNote, which I will get to in a bit. So I'm just giving an example. All right. Now, another thing you can use when you, as a DevOps engineer, when you're planning your project is what you can use bots. Now, bots are what are digital assistants. We call them digital assistants because what they have conversational, you can have them as conversational bots, or you can have them just as bots. Probably when I mean conversational, that means there is a two-way. You ask questions, they are replying. And they can just be bots that can just give you a notification. So you can actually use that also to keep you up and running and do what collaborate. To collaborate very well.
My laptop refused.
Okay, so organizing. Let's stay here. This is what I was going to. Okay. I was actually trying to do. So I'm helping you a bit too. Let's take a product or a project team as an example that you've created in Microsoft Teams. You have a situation, just like you said, we have our channels, and each of these channels can be what? General channel, which comes default when you create a team. What you can have in the general channel is what you can have what is referred to as your announcement, when you make announcement to tell all of your team that what we are going to be embarking on a new project and all of that, or any announcement that you have as regards the project, you can have it in the general. You can have your business reviews, meetings and all of that, and keep all of that as a tab. References probably to any of the documentations that you're using, you can have that. So you have this as actually what your business review deck. Then again, you can have the initiation where you have things like what feasibility studies. You have scoping, you define your what deliverables. Now, the whole essence of why you're creating channels is because at the end of the day, you are trying to structure your team in such a way that your team will only be in the channel that is relevant to them in project development. That is what. So I don't use Slack, so I don't know if Slack does a lot of things for you. But the whole essence of what we're trying to do here is see how you're already using a Microsoft solution to do a lot of things, Azure DevOps. Now you have a product that is called Microsoft Teams. Why not use everything? Now, at the planning phase, what you'll be looking at is probably maybe you have your review, you have things like your project plan, applications like for project plan you can use are things like your Jira, your Canva and all of that. You can use all of those applications in this channel. Then this is where you take up the meeting notes like your OneNote. Then you have the execution channel where you'll be doing a lot of your stand-up and all of that, your quarterly planning, your budget report. And then you can have monitoring where you can make use of things like what user voice, where people can give feedback at all. So we'll go through a demo to see how this will happen. So yeah, now, so this is what a typical channel. So a product engineering, this a product engineering teams in Microsoft Teams, an example. And then under research, or your under research, which is what I've already spoken about, is where you do a lot of your BRD. Then architecture will be where you do a lot of specification review, and these are the applications you can use in this channel. You can use Word and OneNote. Then in the planning, where you have your Power BI that you can use. Please forgive me ahead of time for not updating the new icons. You have your GitHub, you have your user voice, you have OneNote, you have project plans, and then you have the Azure boards. The Azure board there. Then you have the pull requests here, where you have your pull requests. The pull requests are places where you monitor what's your repository, and then you stay on top of your Teams channel when code is being pushed, or when it is created, or when it is being made. You want all of that. Now, the Azure DevOps tools you'll be using will be things like what's your repos, your GitHub, you have Azure DevOps here. Business guy. Now, again, the ship room is where you do a lot of what your meeting agendas, and you can see you have notes taking here. You also have Power BI where you can project your progress with it. And then you have PowerPoints where you'll be using as applications here and all of that. So then you have the build release where you can use Jenkins and your Azure pipelines. Yes, that's the where you can use all of that. Okay, this is your pipeline. All right. So you have Jenkins and this is what I'm missing out. But that's what you can use in all of these. Okay, please go. So this is what your typical if you start using your pull request. So this is an example of the pull request that came into this pull request channel, and then discussion can start about that pull. So instead of you going out of several apps and using several apps, you can actually bring all of this into what Microsoft Teams, and then you will work from there. Okay, so let's see. So let's look at other things you can do around Scrum, boards, and PR. Now, if you look at Scrums and PR, and then on Scrums, you can actually jump into have your daily stand-up. From within the channel, you can actually have what's your daily stand-up, just going into it. And then a few other great examples of applications you can use are all of these. You will find it, which is what I'm going to try to do now. How we can go into some of those applications. Yeah. So just to do a little bit of, so let's look at the Azure pipelines, yes, and then the Azure DevOps here. With Azure pipelines, you have allows you to monitor what events for your pipelines really. So you can set up and get notification in your Teams channel for releases, pending approvals, and all of that. So and then this is what it looks like. If you have to start, you go to app. If you're using Microsoft Teams today, if you go to apps in Microsoft Teams, let's see. Can you see my screen? Okay, great. So this is what I'm trying to use. So if you look at, you can see my screen. If you come to apps that you can use for Azure for DevOps, all you need to just search is, if you search within apps and you say these are applications, you will see tools for what Azure DevOps you can actually add into Microsoft Teams and all of that. So giving an example here is this, and you can also see an example of what workflows, because you can do a lot of automation also with your DevOps, like workflow. If there's a new pull request, send notification, you can use workflows, notify me if a new team, and notify a team of a new Azure DevOps work item that has been posted or has been pushed. You can do all of that workflow. You can create an Azure DevOps work item. You can use workflow to create a lot of automation here. So these are all the things you can use and more. And then to create your teams also, all you need to do is go into Teams here. Go into Teams here, and then you can create or join an existing team. Now, if you look at an example of what I'm trying to show here, let's see if I can get an example of it. So let's say this. So this is an example of a website that if I want to do a website revamp, definitely I will have the research team and architecture, planning. I'll have prep and design, engineer, and all of that. Now, if I go to each of these, the tools that we need here for this one, I need what? I need tools like Words because it's research. I can come in here and add things for what? OneNote. You get. Now, if I had OneNote here, all of the things around meeting notes that we've taken, I can actually use it. So say this, and then I say this. Great. So you can have all of the things on OneNote put in here. Now let's come to another place of the planning. When we talk about the planning, this is where you use tools like your project plan. You can even use Cover and all of that. So I can come in here and do a search for words, my Canva tool, and then add it and all of that. So you can create all of these tools at the end of the day for your words. So this is going to ask me for a little bit of say create an account for a team. Let's save it. Of course, you're going to give it a more and all of that. So every conversation that you can do here, any conversation you need or any planning you need here, you can actually start it from here. In a few minutes. Now, but most importantly, how do we add our Azure DevOps? So you come to this general, and then you come to what? Connectors. And then when you select connectors, you look for reload. So I have connectors for what? Azure DevOps. Now, if you have an environment, if you're a DevOps engineer already, you should have if you have a DevOps account and all of that, you can actually add it. And then a lot of us here are actually MCTs, and I want to believe that you should be able to have that Visual Studio, all of that gives you. So the beauty about this is that once it is added, you can start any push request or anything that you're doing, you can continue to see it here. Now, if it comes to things like prep and design, or even testing, let me see. I can come in here. Just going to give an example to add things like what do you call it? Letters. Pipelines. And then the cool thing is also there is a guide for you to add if you have Azure DevOps server. That is, you have it on premise instead. Okay, so I need to add things for 2 minutes, please. Manage apps. Then let's do a search for so okay, good. So let's say I want to do, where am I? I'm in prep or planning, that's what. So I want to do things like tasks and planning, or to do, we want to create it. You can actually do what? Do all of this also. Okay, something went wrong and all of that. So in a nutshell, when you've added your Azure DevOps, if I come to connectors again, you see that when it is added, you have now the option for you to do or to configure it. Now, in configuring it, a lot of the tasks that you will do here is that if you have, like this is giving me error because I haven't set up my DevOps account with this, my DevOps site with this account. So I was hoping it was going to sign me with my Microsoft account. So you can add all of these and save it. So you must have an organization, a project that you've created before. So this is how you can use DevOps environment from within your Microsoft Teams. Now, what does this give you at the end of the day is that you've done what is referred to as an organizational cultural transformation. Your users are not going in between applications. Your users are working from Azure, from within Azure. They don't even need to log into the website. From within their Microsoft Teams, they can see all their pull requests. They can see all their pull requests. They can see the work item and everything that has taken place. So instead of them going up and down, working from within applications, you've been able to achieve all of that from within your Microsoft Teams. So that is the advantage of you doing all of these. And so, which is some of the things in adding like something like Azure pipelines. This is just some of the few steps you need to do. Then looking at the Azure board apps in Microsoft Teams, that one helps you to helps you to do what? Set up and manage subscription for creating and updating your work items. And so some of the ways you can do this is you just add your Azure boards also to where you have mostly your planning channel. Now, the repos also allows you to easily monitor your repositories in Azure DevOps. So bringing that also into Teams, you can do what? Manage your subscription to receive what? Notification in your channels whenever a code is pushed and all of that. And this is what you are likely to get. Now, you can do webbook. I know some of you will know about it, but if you don't know about it, so what webbook allows you, a simple way for you to connect web services to channels and teams inside Microsoft Teams. And you have different types of them. You have outgoing webbook and then incoming webhooks also. Power Automate, I've said a bit about that, how you can actually do what? Automate a lot of those processes using Power Automate and then get notification and all of that. So you can also build custom bots. Then finally, how do you reward your team? You can have praises given to them. You can create praise to a group of people. Let's assume they worked overnight in solving a problem. To encourage them the more, you can do what? Recognize their effort and give them praise. I don't know how many of you know praise in Microsoft Teams. Okay. Now you can also use what? Giphy. And how many of you know that Microsoft Teams is the only one that comes with the 3G emojis? So I want to pride a bit. So that's one of the good things that you have in all of that. Now, at the end of the day, which is what I'm trying to say, at the end of the day, with this, you have what? Productivity with what? Collaboration transformation. How do you start? You can start small. You can start by creating a project or by importing an existing process or function into Microsoft Teams with the help of what Azure DevOps. And then make it fun, really. Create new traditions in Teams, do promotion, celebration, virtual launch of even your solution where people can co-work together, and then you can do what appreciation. You can even run an hackathon for them and all of that. And then lastly, I think I will leave you with all of these, and these are resources you can actually make use of. There are a lot of open source customizable apps applications that you can also bring into Microsoft Teams that you can use, and all of that. So these are resources you can leverage on. And then I would want to also leave you with this. We want Microsoft still wants I mean, so I think some people are trying to. So a lot of these, it's not changing. What's up?
Okay, it's changed.
Uh-huh. So I think so there are resources here where you can see more of how to integrate Azure DevOps with Microsoft Teams. And then what the whole lessons I want you people to take away from here is how you can start integrating this into your process and all of that. So that even when you are no longer in the organization, there can be a continuity. Someone else can come in because the channels, all of those things, channels will still be. And even then, at the end of the day, even if somebody leaves the organization, you can actually see a track of all of the work that they've done with the help of this integration. Now, one of the things also the team is passionate about is feedback. Now, please fill this form. The form is actually for your experience. If you have some people, if so, we want to know really what we want to gather statistics of those that are using DevOps today with Microsoft Teams, and also those that are using Words, that are using Slack. So we will see how much work we still need to do. So we appreciate your feedback and all of that. Please ensure that you give us your feedback, and if there is a prize or a gift, we will let you know whether you got one. This, but I did not say there is a price to it, so nobody should come and meet me on that. All right, so thank you everyone. That will be the end of this session. If you have any question, I can take it down. But mind you, I don't give any question of coding.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so I've seen how we can bring in a lot of applications into Teams. But I have some design application.
All right.
Using my private tool, personal tools.
Okay.
Now, can I still bring those apps into Teams so that my team members can use that, collaborate with it, and if yes, how?
Okay, that's a very good one. So the first question I want to ask is that does that application, does it have a custom website or URL?
No, it's a desktop application.
So if it's a desktop application, that would be more of you creating like a connector, a custom connector where you can bring, and if it is exposable, maybe you have an exposable API, you can bring it into your Teams and then with the connectors. All right.
That's making it a webbook, right?
Yes, your webbook. Thank you. Yeah.
Another question?
Any other question? Yes.
So, how easy is it to migrate from, say, an Asana? So I've been operating my organization on Asana, and I want to migrate the project and all of that to Microsoft Teams. My first question is that possible? And how easy is that?
So the answer is that yes, it's possible. So I'll tell you how. The first thing first you have to let me tell you is that you have to be careful around planning. It's a major change, a very drastic shift that you're trying to do. So first thing is you will start small, just like I said. And this is more of like a cultural change. You know, when we talk about digital transformation, there is a lot of things we talk about there, but there are so many factors under digital transformation. You have the cultural transformation where you take care of also the people, process, and all of that. So those are things you are trying to look now. Now, educating your team is very important. And then you may have some champions that you will start with. You don't do a big bang. because the big bang, so you're having champions, having people that you can migrate gradually will help you to say, okay, you want to get sentiments. I'll use Mr. Digi's word, sentiment analysis on how people are taking this. And then you continue to document. So it's a roadmap. You have to draw a roadmap for yourself on it. Now, the first thing you want to start making it a communication tool. When people have started using it and then they've started using it, then the next phase is now you are now going to customize your presentation of teams to each of your units or your department in the language they will understand. I'll give you an example. Today, I'm not a developer, but I am with an audience of people that a lot of them may be using Azure for what? For development purpose, they may be using for other purposes. So how am I going to sell teams in the relevance of the context of the people? The only way I can do that is to say, okay, bring your workload into Microsoft Teams. The way I will preach Microsoft Teams to someone that is doing HR or marketing will be different from. Now, my audience today are what? Developers. That's why I went this route. If my audience the next day are what? Are people that are accountants or they are HR, I will go another route. I will even show them this. So you have to first know who your audience is and then do what? Slice teams according to how it will fit your audience. Okay. Now, when you start that, we now say, when you're getting everybody comfortable, and you can now come to now say you want to now bring your projects and all of that. Now, it might require third-party tool for you to do the integration. I'm not saying that this may not be possible out of the box and Microsoft, because Microsoft supports a lot of custom tools that you can use for migration, especially when you're coming from another platform. Another way is that it can be through a third-party tool. So that is what you do. But first thing is plan, do your planning very well. All right.
Thank you very much.